Trump wants a deal to end the invasion of Ukraine. However, it looks like this deal is going to be in the expense of Kiev more than Moscow. Europe is cautious.
A Russian drone has struck the protective shell of a nuclear reactor at the Chernobyl power plant.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. I have a question for you as well. But Mr. President, you have suggested, with regards to the Russia-Ukraine war, you've suggested several things that Ukraine should give up. The idea of NATO membership, territory that was seized back in 2014 by Russia. What should Russia give up?
Russia has gotten themselves into something, and they said you cannot have Ukraine going in any way into NATO. And I start from that standpoint. I think everybody knew that. Now, if a better deal can be negotiated, if they are able to make a deal where they can do that, that's fine with me. I really don't care. I want that bloodshed to stop. Ukraine wasn't in and never requested to be in until more recently. So that's the way it is, and I think that's the way it's going to have to be.
Unsere Interessen in den bevorstehenden Verhandlungen selbstbewusst vertreten, engagiert, denn sie gehen uns unmittelbar an. Wir Europäer sind es, die die Ukraine am stärksten unterstützen, und zwar so lange, wie dies nötig ist, und auch über einen möglichen Friedensschluss hinaus.
В розмові він не сказав, що Путін і Росія була пріоритетом. І сьогодні ми довіряємо цим словам. Для нас дуже важливо зберегти підтримку Сполучених Штатів, Америки.
A Russian drone with a high explosive warhead has struck the protective shell of Chernobyl's nuclear reactor, according to Ukrainian authorities. President Zelensky says the Kyiv region was attacked overnight and the drone hit the safe confinement of the destroyed fourth reactor unit of the nuclear power plant. He added, however, that although the confinement sustained significant damage, the fire was extinguished and radiation levels have not increased. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought repeated warnings of dangers to Ukraine's 4 nuclear plants, especially at the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia plant in southern Ukraine. Rafael Grossi, head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, said the strike on Chernobyl and military activity near the Zaporizhzhia plant have left the UN agency on high alert.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky issued a stark warning on Friday, saying that Russia may be preparing an act of aggression against NATO members as early as next year. He spoke at the Munich Security Conference, where the future of Ukraine is the top item on the agenda.
And I think this is his idea. And I think that all I've got from intelligence and etc., I think, to my mind, that he's preparing the war against NATO countries next year. And I think so. But I don't know, I don't have 100, and God bless, we will stop this crazy guy. And we will not have any war in the world in Europe, but you will not stop him just to say, yes, he said that, we will stop. It's not enough.
Zelensky added that immediate security guarantees for Ukraine are necessary after U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said NATO membership for Ukraine was unrealistic. He said EU politicians remain very concerned about the U.S. reaction and possible support in case of an attack.
If we are not ready today for NATO, okay, we will wait, but we can't just wait. We will wait with some security guarantees for today. That's my position.
Zelensky is also meeting U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance in Munich to discuss President Trump's ideas for a negotiated settlement to the war.
People in Kyiv have reacted to the US President Donald Trump asking Russian President Vladimir Putin to begin negotiations on ending the war in Ukraine without commitment to Ukraine's participation in the talks.
Тобто це було питання, коли ми опинимось в таких обставинах. Це ось за всі ці 12 років це вперше, коли про Україну без України.
Я розочарована Трампом, то що він говорить, що він буде зустрічатися з Путіним, і це все буде відбуватися без України, тобто вони вирішують нашу долю із Путіним, завдяки якому в нашій країні стільки людей втрачено, найкращих людей. Ну, настрій трошки такий, ну не трошки, а зовсім, скажімо так, негативний. І дуже сумно з цього приводу.
Я просто обурений до глибини душі. Коротко, якщо прокоментувати це все, то я згадаю слова моєї бабусі. Ворон ворону око не виклює. Це на третьому році війни так здавати Україну, я вважаю, що це просто величезне приниження, перш за все, для великого американського народу. Як вони його вибрали, не розумію.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, meanwhile, said he will not accept any negotiations about Ukraine that do not include his country in the talks. European governments also demanded a seat at the table. The US Secretary of Defense has called restoring Ukraine's pre-2014 borders unrealistic and ruled out the country's NATO membership. Former Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba says Ukraine must now focus on what remains on the table.
Overall, Russia is interested in three topics: land, NATO, and money. And now we see that land and NATO are already gone without any fight. Of course, Ukraine will continue to insist on it, but this US position has been set more than squarely. So what stays on the table is money, and that will be about sanctions, about frozen Russian assets, and the new element added to it is this raw material agreement that Trump wants to sign with Ukraine.
President Zelensky doubts Europe can fill the gap if US support fades. Ahead of the annual Munich Security Conference, Kuleba says the ball is now in Europe's court.
So high expectations, but I don't think there will be anything new. What coming from the US side? What I think could happen is whether Europe is going to speak up. But Europe has been silent so far. And it has to give its voice. It has to say what is happening, what is its view on this. Because basically, everything that Trump said and did so far did not only not match Ukrainian interests, but also European interests.
Ukraine wants NATO membership, but instead there are suggestions of different security guarantees, such as European peacekeepers. Kuleba believes that to be unrealistic.
3,000 kilometers of the front line. 3,000 kilometers. Zelensky said at least 200,000 troops are needed, and he's very humble in his assessment. That means that all the entire armed force of the entire European Union will have to go through the peacekeeping operation. Because if you deploy 200,000 to the line, it means that you need to have at least 200,000 at home, resting and preparing for the rotation. The cost of this mission is uncountable. I mean, I cannot even count how much it is going to cost. And listen, if you have all that money that you are ready to invest in peacekeepers, it will be much cheaper to give them to Ukraine to allow it to build up its own army and fight the Russians without exposing the lives of EU soldiers to the threat of being caught up in fire.
Less than 3 weeks from the 3-year mark of Russia's full-scale invasion, Donald Trump is pushing for negotiations. The terms, however, remain unclear.
Several people, including a small child, were seriously injured after a car rammed into a union demonstration on Thursday morning in Munich. Bavarian Minister-President Markus Söder, German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier and the Mayor of Munich, along with members of the Verdi Union that was attacked on Thursday, left flowers at the memorial. 36 people were injured. The attack comes a week before Germans head to the polls. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is vowing faster deportations, although the perpetrator was living and working in Germany legally. The perpetrator has confessed, according to the senior state prosecutor at a press conference. The police suspect an Islamist motivation. Managing director at Verdi Munich, Claudia Weber, said she was at the demonstration but did not witness the attack.
Ja, wir sind alle total schockiert und betroffen und es ist so schlimm, dass es passiert ist. Und wir haben nur einen Gedanken, wir sind bei den Kolleginnen und Kollegen, die im Krankenhaus sind und wir hoffen, dass alle wieder gesund werden. Das ist unser einziges Anliegen und unser Schmerz jetzt. Wir sind wahnsinnig betroffen.
Liv Stroud in Munich for Euronews.
Pope Francis has been hospitalized to treat bronchitis and undergo diagnostic tests, the Vatican confirmed on Friday. The 88-year-old pontiff, who had part of a lung removed in his youth, has long struggled with health issues, including recurring bouts of acute bronchitis during winter. He recently suffered 2 falls, injuring his arm and chin. Although he continued to hold audiences and preside over events, it is unknown after the latest hospitalization whether his scheduled events will proceed as planned. The Pope is being treated at Rome's Gemelli Hospital, where he underwent surgery last year for intestinal scar tissue and a hernia.